I'm so sorry I'm late. But I'm here. Okay.
You are live.
I am live. Yay! Hello and welcome everyone. I am putting away El Telefono. This is gone now. We are no friends longer.
Mine's also off.
Yeah, so I am so happy that everyone is here today and that I get to do this. And thank you, Jamie, for coming. Basically, kind of our story together is that 1 year ago I met Morton, and it completely changed my life. Everything that I've always ever wanted to do, like writing, film, etc., all of my passions, and like excelling in my career, all the things that I thought in my head but I never actually did, they came true. And I get to hang out with the people and be a part of people that have brought me there. So after sort of a year, now we're here, and I'm doing a webinar with Jamie and Morton. So yeah, this is amazing, and I get to share this. So that's really cool. So to Jamie Smart, for everyone who doesn't know him, he is, other than an extremely cool individual, he is a best-selling author of the book Clarity, which I know a lot of you guys know that are online right now. But for those who don't, yeah, that's what he does. And Jamie hasn't had a job in, is it 20 years?
Yeah, no,
right?
Like I think my last job was like 1990. I left it in 1998. That's when I handed in my notice. It's quite a long time ago.
Okay. All right. So he hasn't had a job, and jobs are not for him. And that's a philosophy that I very much agree with, because I think we are foremost human beings, and that's what we should practice our time with. And there is so much that we can do in our realms of possibility, like more than we ever knew, and we don't give ourselves that. And yeah, that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, I suppose. Doing everything and being you, and kind of, I guess, like success is like a very broad term, you know. But yeah, tell us a little bit, JB, about, I don't know, it's hard to put in words, but I think you're better at it than me.
Well, so I start with the kind of nutshell history of Jamie so people who don't know me can kind of get a feel for where I'm coming from and that sort of thing.
Yes, please do.
So, but I got to say, it's great to be here with you, and I'm really glad we can be talking. And I'm really glad we're talking about this subject, actually, because I think whether it's working in the context of employment and a job, or whether it's, you know, running your own business, or transitioning from having a job to doing something that's more in line with your own purpose, or whatever, the principles we're going to be exploring on this call are really, really relevant. So just to backtrack, like I said, in the 90s, I used to be a computer programmer. And I was working as a computer programmer, and I kind of thought, you know what, if I want to be able to do cool things and go places and really have a career, I've got to develop more kind of skills, and I got to develop more kind of leadership stuff and that sort of thing. And I noticed in my organization they were always looking for people to run projects, because projects almost always failed, these computer projects, so no one wanted to run them. So I said, I'll do it. And so I was running these projects, like, you know, big budgets and that sort of thing, but I found it super stressful, and so I used to drink heavily to relieve the stress. And by the time we got to the end of having a job, I had to stop drinking, because I just got married. My wife was going to leave. I said, don't worry, I'll stop drinking. But then I found I was left with a thinking problem, and that's where things got interesting, because I hadn't realized I was using alcohol to deal with my thinking problem. And so I started looking for other ways to deal with the thinking problem. And I explored spirituality and personal development and NLP and hypnosis. And I ended up creating a business, doing a personal development business and products, working with lots of people. And I became fascinated with how do people change and how do people evolve and how do people get their best performances and how do people do the things they want to do. And so that fascination had me grow a business, and I ended up getting to, I think it was like 2008. I'd read the book, The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And the whole idea of the book was, you know, put your work on autopilot so you can go around the world and have amazing adventures. And I thought, that's it. That's what I've been missing. Not enough amazing adventures. So I did that in my business, and I went for my first mini retirement, which was a 3-month ski holiday in Whistler in Canada. And I thought it should be the most amazing experience of my life because, you know, it was all the stuff that I'd been working so hard for and everything like that. And I was kind of miserable and off purpose and down in the dumps. And I couldn't understand it because I had all the externals right. And so I had to go back to the drawing board. And that's when I realized, you know, I hired a coach and started, you know, going on workshops and that sort of thing. And I realized I'd built my business and my career and all this stuff on a bedrock misunderstanding. And the things that cleared up that misunderstanding are the things that, you know, I shared with Morton and Morton shared with you, and the things that have made such a big difference in your life and the things that have made such a big difference in my life. So yeah, the 3 kind of pillars, the 3 transformations that we're going to be exploring tonight are behind all of that. And the thing I'm excited about is everyone listening, like this, the stuff that we're going to be talking about, it's going to relate to you. You're going to, you know, don't take my word for it. As you listen in, you're going to hear how it relates to you and your work and your life and what you want to accomplish in your life too. So I'm really glad to be here with you, Virginia.
I turned off my mic. Me too. So yeah, so what, like, I mean, this has been, like, sometimes it's a little bit confusing, like the whole journey of, like, getting towards what you want and who you are, and, like, but what would you say is, like, that first step?
Yeah, well, the first step, the thing that I've found has the most leverage for people is well, I'll lay out a couple of things. Number one, and these are going to sound like beliefs or good ideas, but I'm later in the call I'll back them up with kind of evidence that this is true. So number one is that you're built for success. You're built to thrive. You're built to prosper, to do much more than survive on this planet. You're built to do good on this planet, and you're built, designed, evolved to have a life that you love. And so that's the kind of the first thing I wanted to say, because if you look around, first thing you know is that we've evolved, right? So we've evolved from people who have been on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years. And even if you track back, so it's still people who look broadly like us, that's still 1 million years of generations. That's hundreds of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of generations of people improving and getting better. I mean, I know you work for a software company. You know how you do lots of iterations of a program or of a piece of software? Well, that's nothing compared to the version number we're on for humanity. And you and me and everyone who's listening, we're all literally the spearhead of evolution. There's an unbroken line between you right now and your great to the power of 50 grandparents and the monkeys they evolved from and the fish that they evolved from, all the way back to the first bubble of life that existed on this planet. So when I say you're the spearhead of evolution and you're designed to succeed and to thrive, I don't just mean that as a nice, like, new age, oh, aren't we all lovely? I mean, like, this is, by definition, all the people who weren't built to survive, they got out-selected like 10 years ago or 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago, and you didn't, and your parents didn't, your great-grandparents didn't, and no one else did all the way back, and that's why you're here today. And that's how well adapted you are to life on this planet. That's how brilliantly put together you are. Now, here's the second thing is, if you look at a little kid, like maybe 2 years old, 3 years old, this little kid spends most of their time peaceful, clear-headed, happy, creative, enjoying life, curious, wrapped up in their life, wrapped, engaged, part of it, connecting easily with people. And I'm not saying they don't get upset. They do. Like 50 times a day they'll be crying or yelling or they'll be angry or whatever, but they reset to clarity like that. It's really, really fast. So that's the first thing I want to see. The thing is, you were that little kid, and that means it's there in you, that self-correcting system, that innate ability to restore to clarity in any moment. And the reason I mention that is because what you find again and again and again is, and you find this in any field of performance, whether it's in the workplace or on the playing field or in the bedroom or on a stage musically, or anything or if it's in productivity in your work, anywhere where high performance is involved, you find that people give their best performances when they got nothing on their mind. People are their most connected and their best communicators when they've got a clear head. People are most innovative and creative when they've got nothing on their mind, and people are able to come up with the goods in terms of leadership, in terms of influence, in terms of integrity, all the things that turn out to be the qualities of high character and impact, we discover are there when you've got nothing on your mind. So what I'm going to be pointing to is that those are innate for all of us. Well, let me check in with you, Virginia. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Is that landing?
Sorry, I was clicking the wrong unmute button. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically, it's sort of about embracing that, like clearing your mind to come back to the place where you can express yourself, where you can be creative, like starting, I studied sociology, right? So what I sort of call it is like the domestication, like the socialization of us giving us the rules to say, this is so, this is, you have to kind of, you have to get a job, you have to get a mortgage, you got to get an engagement ring, you got to get married, and then you get your pension and you die. Yeah. So I think like the first step is sort of unraveling that and suddenly embracing and saying, no, there is no like one path. There is like millions and billions of paths, which one I choose and wherever I want to go, and that's what I want to do. Yeah. So it's that kind of, it's letting go of that.
Well, and here's the thing, that all that conditioning you refer to, the challenge people are up against is how people get kind of kept on the track of that conditioning is actually through feelings. Like they think, oh, I'd like to go do my own thing, and then they get this feeling of anxiety. Or they're like, oh, I'd like to experiment with this, and they get a feeling of like shame or discomfort or whatever, or I couldn't do it or whatever. And so, like I said, the first thing I have to say is you've evolved to be able to do whatever your heart desires, whatever your authentic desires are, whatever is your part to play in the world here. The second thing is that the thing that gets in the way of that, while it may look like it's the conditioning or other people's opinions or whatever, which is certainly how it kind of gets installed, the only thing keeping it in place is a fundamental misunderstanding about how our perception works. And what I find again and again and again is that as you start to see through this misunderstanding about perception, everything gets easier. It's like having a weight taken off you. And suddenly you've got more courage than you used to have. Suddenly you get more connected to people than you used to. Suddenly you've got the right answers to questions, or you know what the solution to something that's been troubling you is. And so when we talk about the 3 pillars of your outrageously successful career, whatever form that takes, the foundation pillar, the foundation piece for that is what I call your grounding. It's your embodied understanding of how life works. And so that's at the kind of the heart of all the work I do, is helping people see through that. And I got to tell you a story, because I literally, I hope Morton's okay with me telling me this, because I didn't ask his permission, but I'm sure he will be, because I've heard him say it before. He basically, back a couple of years ago, I spoke at a conference in Norway, and the stuff I shared had so much impact that on the spot they invited me to come back and teach a workshop, and got people to sign up for it on the spot and everything. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a workshop. So I came back and did this workshop. Morton was in that workshop, and I was saying this stuff about, the bedrock of what I'm talking about is that we're living in the feeling of our moment-to-moment thinking, but it seems like we're feeling other stuff. It seems like we're feeling that meeting in the future, or it seems like we're feeling what happened last week or last month or last year. It seems like we're feeling our job or our bank balance or what our partner said to us or what our parents said to us. But actually, that's a trick of the mind. We're always living in the feeling of thought in the moment. So I'm saying this to the folks in the workshop, and when people first come in, I'm telling stories and that sort of thing. And Morton's nodding, going like, yeah, I get that. And then I say it again in a different way. He's like, yeah, I know that. And then, because, Morton's been around the block a few times, he knows about this stuff. And I say it in a different way. He's like, oh, yeah, I know that. And then all of a sudden, he's like, oh, and he sees it. And this is it. You remember those, I don't know, those magic eye drawings or whatever? Or even better, have you ever seen the FedEx logo? Like, check this out. Check this out. I don't know if you've seen this before. I'm going to see if I can Google it up. But if you look at the FedEx logo, what you'll find in the FedEx logo, I can see if I can pull it up on my phone, is that there's a big white arrow in the FedEx logo. Like here, right in the FedEx logo, there's a big white arrow. Now, it's so big that once you've seen it, you'll see it every time you see the FedEx.
Oh, shit.
There, that. Now, I'll hold it up there for a bit. If you haven't seen it, see what Virginia, what you just had is an insight. You just had an insight.
Yeah.
You just saw something. Now, the cool thing about that is, you just saw something that's been there ever since the logo was designed. So that white arrow, that's been there for 20 years, 30 years, however long it is since FedEx was designed. And it had been there. Every time you looked at it, it was there, but you didn't see it. And now you're going to see it every time. Well, that's what happened to Morton. It was like all of a sudden something he thought he knew fell away, and he saw the truth of the matter. And this is what happens with all my clients. This is what happens with everyone I work with. Sooner or later, whether it's on the first morning or the first day or the first session, they'll have that and they'll see something that's been true your whole life, that's been staring you right in the face, but you didn't know it was there. And when you see that, that is literally the cure for stress and overwhelm, the cure for a variety of things that get in people's way. And it's profound. And so my job when I'm working with people is to help them see the truth of where our experience comes from. So that's the first pillar. Can I give you another metaphor for it? Just nod if it's. Uh, so if you
But I didn't hear it.
oh, I
Back
said, can I
up. Can
give
you
you
say
another
again? That's the first pillar. What?
of your outrageously successful career, your outrageously successful business, your outrageously enjoyable life. The first pillar is what I call grounding. It's seeing through a trick of the mind that we're all up against and that hardly anyone even knows about. And this trick of the mind is so powerful. It's what causes stress. It's what causes anxiety. It's what causes people to play small in their lives. See, the thing is, what I'll say to everyone listening to this, you have right there within you the source of your most outrageously inspiring career, of the life you love, of everything you want to experience in your life. And the only thing that's getting in the way is a trick of the mind about how life works. And so my job is to create a space where people start to see through that trick of the mind. So I'm going to give you another example for this because it's so weird and kind of spooky. But like, with little kids, they'll sometimes like have a teddy bear or a blanket that they hold on to before they go to sleep at night. Or if they're feeling nervous or something, they'll like hang on to this teddy bear. I can't hear you, Virginia. You're
Nothing.
so. Oh, you've got it. Yeah, beautiful. So, well, I hope I'm not going to shatter any illusions for you here, but when someone's got like a teddy bear, or a blanket, or my youngest daughter Tallulah, she's got like a rabbit called Coco, and she curls up with Coco when she's ready to go to sleep. Now, to a little kid, it seems to them like those good feelings are coming from the rabbit or the bear or the blanket. It really seems like those feelings of comfort and peace and security are coming from the bear, that they got something to do with the bear anyway. But in actual fact, 100% of those feelings of peace, those feelings of well-being, those feelings of comfort are coming from within the child. The bear is completely neutral. It's got nothing to do with it. 100% of it is coming from within the child. 0% of it is coming from within the bear or the blanket or whatever. But it really seems like it's got something to do with the bear. It really seems like it's got something to do with the blanket. And if you take it away from them, then they freak out because it seems like those uncomfortable, those painful feelings have something to do with the bear or the blanket as well, and there's something to do with it being taken away. It really seems like that, but you and I know that that's just a trick of the mind that little kids take as a reality. Well, history is full of these tricks of the mind. Like I'm sitting here in my apartment in West London, and earlier it looked like the sun was beginning to set. But we know that the sun doesn't really set. The earth is spinning around the sun. The sun's not setting at all. The earth's turning. So that's a trick of the mind. Like the stars are up in the sky and the planets are holding them there, and it looks like they're being held up in space, but actually that's gravity. They're all spinning and rotating. It just looks like they're up there and slowly moving. Actually being...
Yeah, like an example that I gave in one of my articles, which was called like the misunderstanding that your external has an influence on your internal happiness, is that like imagine yourself like standing in the exact room that you are right now, and like standing in the exact spot and feeling like incredible rage and like feeling incredible just like loss of control and anger. Right? And then being in exactly that same room, exactly like with everything it is, and feeling the most happiest that you've ever been. And it's the same thing, like when people ask me like, well, what should I give to someone as a present or something like that? It doesn't matter like what the physical object is. It's like, who gave you that present? Like it's you how you feel about it. So it's literally an internal thing. Like this bear right here can have like completely opposing feelings. Like if it is given to me by a current boyfriend or by an ex-boyfriend, or like how I, came about it. Like I could totally hate this bear.
Yeah.
has nothing. And so kind of like the mom giving the child the, you know, the bear, like it's coming from a feeling that the child feels, you know, for their family or whatever. It's a place of serenity, etc. So we choose, like you said, everything is neutral, and we choose the content that we fill it with.
Well, and this, I don't know if we even choose it. Like, it looks like it's coming from the stuff. It looks like it's coming from the bear. And if we choose it, it's not I'm not sure that it's usually a conscious choice. It's just what I'm pointing to is that it seems like the bear's got something to do with it. And we understand that with little kids, but then it seems like, oh, it's different when it's the job or the boyfriend or the girlfriend or that text message they sent me or my future or that talk I've got to do next week or that interview I'm going for or that thing they said to me last month. When it seems like it's coming from out there, that changes the feeling of how we relate to life. And it's a trick of the mind. So it's, like you said, it's absolutely neutral. Not only is the bear neutral, but the job's neutral, the money in the bank's neutral, the boyfriend is neutral, the girlfriend is neutral, the future is neutral, the past is neutral. What you're like as a person is neutral. Like if someone's sitting there going, oh, I'm just not ambitious, or I'm the way I am because of what happened to me as a kid. Well, all that's neutral as well. You're always living in the feeling of thought in the moment, but it seems like there's more to it than that. But it's just one thing. It's thought in the moment. And the cool thing is, like I said, we've evolved for life on this planet. We're brilliant life on this planet. But we're not so good in a world that doesn't exist. In a world where we can feel things other than thought in the moment. The world where we can feel teddy bears or feel get made to feel stuff by boyfriends or girlfriends or bank balances or last month or last week or next year. That world doesn't exist. There is no such place. There is no such play. There is not a planet where your job can make you feel a certain way. That doesn't exist. You can think it does, you can believe it does, but it can't actually do that. Just like there's not a teddy bear that can make a person feel something. You're never going to feel anything except a thought. In fact, 100% of what you feel in this moment is you're thinking in this moment. And every beautiful feeling you've ever felt, that's come from within you. And every uncomfortable feeling you've ever felt, that's come from within you as well. And every beautiful feeling you're ever going to feel, that's going to come from within you too. And the reason that's important is because that means that the source of all the beauty you could want in your life is already there within you. And it means you're never, ever, ever going to be a victim of circumstance. And that means you're capable of far, far more than you think you are. Because you are far, far more than you think you are. So that's kind of the first pillar, is who you are, who you really are, and your understanding of life. Now, if you understand how life works, you might still get nervous about going for that job interview or doing that presentation or whatever, but you know that that's not real. That's the first pillar. Shall we move on to the second pillar? Any questions? Oh, I see we've had tons of chat stuff. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them at any point, or do my best to answer them anyway.
Yeah, from Tyler when he said, very interesting points from Jamie. I think I have suffered from the opposite because I used to have a tendency to bottle any issues. I've recently discovered that it's a mind game with myself. If I feel like I can't talk about whatever it is, then in my head it must be bothering me.
Interesting. Well, it sounds like you've had a shift, Tyler. So, second, the second pillar, and this kind of sits on top of the first one, is about the impact you have for other people and the impact you have on other people. It's your relationships with other people, but it's also how you can serve. Like the example I gave at the beginning, when I was working as a computer programmer, I was like, you know what, I'm going to step up, I'm going to take on more responsibility, I'm going to serve more people, I'm going to do a higher risk job, something with more that would demand more of me. Well, I was able to have a bigger impact. I was able to have a bigger impact on more people. And you know, a lot of the people I work with are people who are running their own businesses, or they're kind of wanting to be more entrepreneurial in the organization they work for. And I ask, how can I do that? How can I get the promotion? How can I grow my business? How can I get my boss to give me a pay rise, for instance? Pay rise is a great example. Easiest way to get a pay rise is figure out how you can create a whole much more value for your company. If you're working for a company and you want to get a pay rise, just figure out what needs to happen to create more value for that company, because companies tend to reward value. They tend to like value. So if you can figure out a way to make them more money, or get their customers happier, or make them more resilient, or make them, you know, more disruption proof, or make them more disruptive in the marketplace, those are the kind of things that get rewarded. And so it's all about the impact you're having. And it's interesting. I was listening to an interview with a guy who was a very, very decorated, I think he was like a general, four-star general or something in the U.S. forces or something, had risen to very high rank and was beloved by everyone and that sort of thing. And they said that when he was in training school, what they would look at for who was likely to be a rising star is who were the people who were respected by their colleagues, who were seen as having integrity, seen as being good leaders, seen as being good friends, seen as not just being out for themselves. They look for who are the people who care about others, who contribute, who are in line with the bigger vision. Well, what I've found, Ginny, is that whether it's within an organization, or running your own business, or starting up your own thing, if your focus is on connecting with other people and contributing to them, helping them solve their problems, making a difference to them, that's an incredible predictor of higher wages, more clients paying you more money, people giving you, you know, more opportunities and that sort of thing. Having an impact. So that's what I see as being the second pillar. It's how can you have an impact? Now you'll understand this is very much facilitated by the first pillar, your grounding, your willingness to be real and be authentic, to do your own thing rather than, you know, worrying about what other people think, you know, getting insecure about, is someone going to think I'm stupid, or that sort of thing. And I heard something, this is kind of provocative, but I'd love to share it. A couple of things. There's this quote, I don't remember who it's by, but he's a lovely old gentleman in the 1920s or something. I think he was the head of Toastmasters or something. He said, most people are walking around with their umbilical cord in their hand looking for somewhere to plug it in. And I've found that one of the biggest challenges I had when I decided I wanted to step up and run projects and that sort of thing is that you got to unplug your umbilical cord from the organization or the job or your boss or whatever. You got to be willing. Well, the first thing I did was I plugged it into myself. But that was kind of hard, because that was why I was drinking so much, because I was so stressed out, because I was like, oh, if I don't succeed, I'm going to get executed in the corporate toilets. But then, and this is one of the big things about the principles behind clarity, and this may sound a little bit woo-woo, but it kind of relates to what we were talking about at the beginning, is that you're designed for success. You're designed to thrive. Well, if you think about it, we're all part of life. I mean, I know you're there and I'm here, and we seem like there's a distance between us, but there's a way in which we're all made of life. We're all breathing the same oxygen. We all have the same life force running through us. We're all held to the ground by the same gravitational force. And the same psychological principles and spiritual principles, you could say, that connect us all are running through our thought systems and running through our perceptions. So we're all part of the same life force. We're all part of the same energy. Now, here's why this is relevant. The biggest shift for me came, like, it was a big shift when I unplugged my umbilical cord from the company I was working for and plugged it into myself. I then hustled a lot, made a lot of money and that sort of thing, but I was stressed out of my mind. The big shift came when I plugged it into life. So, okay, well, that energy behind life is what's going to feed you. And it's kind of a funny idea, but it's sort of like, what if life was your boss? And life's a great boss. So what if life was going to say, hey, don't worry, I've got the payroll handled. I've got the, I'm going to make sure there's interesting work for you to do. I'm going to make sure you have the right equipment. I'm going to make sure you have the right people on your team. Because think about it, if you were employing someone to do a job, so you're paying them a bunch of money, you got some job you want done, well, of course, you're going to make sure they've got a desk to sit at, or they've got the right equipment to do their job, and they've got, you know, good internet connection, and they've got the right people around them, and they're properly paid so they're not wasting their time doing something else, because you want to get the best from them. Well, the kind of mindset is, what if life's already your employer and life wants to get the best from you? And so life's going to give you everything you need to do it. Now, that might also include, like, I've had all kinds of experiences that were really hard, and that one of my favorite examples, actually, Steve Jobs told the story of when he got fired from Apple, the company that he had founded, and he said he was devastated, but then he kind of brushed himself off and kind of licked his wounds, and he said, actually, it was bitter medicine, but the patient needed it, because he'd stopped being exploratory and innovative, and he'd become a big corporate guy. And all of a sudden, because he'd been fired, he could start experimenting and hustling and doing cool stuff. And out of that came Pixar, came the new version of Apple, because he got rehired to run Apple. So all that stuff. So I'm not saying, you know, if you make life your boss, then it's all going to be sunshine and roses. You may have to go through the tumbler to some degree to get toughened up and that sort of thing. But when it comes to really being able to have an impact in the world, there's something incredible about kind of plugging your umbilical cord into life and saying, okay, life's going to be my employer. Now, what would I love to do? What am I inspired to do? Like you, Ginny, it allowed you to sort of run with your inspirations and the things you're passionate about and the things you care about. Well, it turns out that the things that we're passionate about, the things we care about, that are authentic desires, the things that we just really fucking want, regardless of whether we should have them or not or whatever, well, those are connected into who we really are. And so they're kind of part of a direct line to life itself. And so, yeah, impact is about how you have more of an impact on the people you're here to serve, whether that's within the organization, whether that's as a solopreneur, whether that's doing a startup. It's about bringing all of you to the party. So that's what impact's about, and I see that as being the second pillar. And then the third pillar, it's about livelihood. It's like, okay, how do you do this commercially? How do you make more money? How do you, like most people, especially if you're working for a big company, well, you've got one client. You've got one client, and the client is the company, and they pay you a salary each month, and they take care of everything except your job. So you do your bit in the company, and they take care of everything else. They take care of the marketing and the selling and the bringing the money in and the production and everything except whatever your job is. Now, if you're in sales, then you're more front line on that stuff, so you're very much on that bit, but maybe you don't have to take care of the marketing, or you don't have to take care of the production, or whatever. Well, another way to see it is, as soon as if you shift that focus and say, okay, this is my main client who pays my wage each month, but the whole organization is my client. So what are the opportunities here for me to make a difference in what we do? What are the problems that need solving? What are the things that need fixing that can amplify the impact of this company I'm working for? And it's the same when people go from being an employee to doing their own thing. Well, all of a sudden they go from having one client to having either no clients, and they need to start building them up, or having a bunch of clients, and suddenly they've got a bunch of jobs to do and that sort of thing. So the third transformation is that transformation of kind of the livelihood one of unplugging your umbilical cord from the one client, the company, and plugging it into life and serving the people you're here to serve. And that can still be within the company, but it's in a more entrepreneurial way. So that's kind of the livelihood transformation. And lots of people I meet who would love to do their own thing, for instance, but they haven't kind of, they're waiting for someone to tell them how to do it. Like, so many people say, oh, I do what I love if only I knew what it was. Or I do what I love if only I knew how to do it. And those are actually excuses. Because the person who's, I remember I was being interviewed on BBC Radio once, and the interviewer says, well, what do you say to people who say they don't know what they'd love to do? And I said, well, like who? She goes, well, like me. I know I'd do what I'd love to do if I just knew what it was. I said, well, my belief is that everyone, deep down, they know what they'd love to do. They know what they're passionate about. They know what they care about. But they just get a whole bunch of, thinking in the way, and that seems like it's, and scared feelings and anxieties or frustrations that seem like they're coming from other than their own thinking. I said, so I'll ask them questions like, well, what would you do if all jobs paid the same? Or what would you do if you were guaranteed not to fail? Or what would you do if it didn't matter if you failed or not? What would you do if it was okay to fail? What would you do if you didn't have to be unhappy about not achieving it? What would you want if you were okay with if you just were able to want it, whether you could have it or not? What would you want if no one would ever know about it? All these kinds of questions. And she goes, oh, well, I'd start up a holistic health business. Well, it turned out she'd been going on training courses and reading books and all this stuff for years about creating a homeopathic health practice, or a holistic health practice. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. She was just scared that she might screw up. And so the power of that first transformation, that grounding, is sort of like a source of courage or fearlessness, which is, I think, what you've tapped into, Ginny, to start doing the things that matter to you and that you care about, and being willing to be criticized for it. So what? Big deal. And that's about courage. And the cool thing about courage is every time you use some courage, it builds more confidence.
I want to read this comment here from Tyler, because I think these are my glasses, by the way. I have to put on my sunglasses to read.
I like
so
that.
it says, if I could interject, I would say that not everybody knows what they would love to do, and that those people should not be afraid of that, and they should use it as full incentive to go and find exactly what they want to do. Like, my first reaction, like when I read that, is think of the thing that when you are doing that, like, you have been most happiest, you've been most present and energetic, and the thing is that the misunderstanding here is that people think that, like, it has to be involved with a job, like it has to be involved with something monetary. If that thing is horseback riding or standing in the top of a mountain and looking out, like, like, I don't know, this is just, my interpretation. It'd be interesting to hear what you want, what you think about it, Jamie. But like, it doesn't matter what that, like, everyone has at least like something inside them that makes them happy. Like at least one moment. Like, I don't care how depressed or sad or miserable you are. I hope that you at least have like one moment where you look back on your life and you felt happiness, you felt that energy, you felt that presence.
Well,
And
here's
then
what. Sorry, go ahead, Jenny. I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah. No, but I'm just thinking, like, that's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, we don't have to pay. Like, we don't have to pick if it's, doctor or lawyer or whatever. That doesn't have to do with it. It's just the feeling that guides us towards whatever it is, and you don't even have to monetize it as well. Like,
Well, I think you're right, and I hear what Tyler's saying, so I want to clarify something, because I can absolutely imagine someone listening to this and going, oh, I don't know, and now I feel bad because I should know, and that sort of thing. So when I say everyone knows deep inside, it's sort of like that FedEx, like the arrow in that FedEx logo for a lot of people. So for me, when I was on my 3-month ski vacation, which I canceled after 6 weeks because I was so miserable, I had been looking for my purpose for years, and I still was convinced that I didn't know what it was. And I ended up going back to the drawing board and starting to explore the principles behind clarity. And I kind of said, okay, you know what? You can have some time off for looking for your purpose, figuring out what you want, that sort of thing. Just explore these principles. Just clear up that grounding thing. Just clear up that first transformation. Get a better understanding of how your perception works. And I was exploring it, and I had an insight. And my first insight was like the teddy bear one, was the one of like, oh, everything you've been looking for outside of yourself, you're actually going to find it within you. So that was huge for me. And then the second insight I had was, oh, just the fact that you can see and hear and feel means that you have that source of clarity and authenticity and well-being within you. So that was huge for me. But then the third one was, I had a sudden realization. I was like, oh, these principles, they're the future of humanity. This is the principles of psychology. And right away, I knew that was my purpose. So that thing that I most loved, that I most wanted to do, it was like that FedEx arrow. It was there the whole time, but I couldn't see it. There it is. I couldn't see it until I could see it. So I get what Tyler's saying. What I'm saying is it's there deep within every person, but they may not be consciously aware of it yet. They may have had flashes of it and stuff. But this is one of the reasons I love sharing these principles with people, because what it does is it clears out the stuff that gets in the way of you knowing what's right for you. You know, Virginia, when I teach my 1-year programs, I have groups of people who come and train with me as coaches and trainers and consultants and all kinds of stuff. At the very beginning, I'll say, look, on the one hand, what I want for you is for you to create whatever your wildest success is, whatever that looks like for you, whatever your definition of wild success is, I want that for you. And on the other hand, what I want for you is to discover your most fully expressed version of who you really are, the real you, the true you, because what I see again and again and again is that who you really are, it really is the fast track to whatever your wildest success, however you define success, is. That the more you're connected with and in touch with and aware of who you really are, the easier and more enjoyable and more effortless it is to create whatever you're inspired to create. So I hear what you're saying, and I hear what Tyler's saying. I think actually we're all pointing to the same thing, that it's there in everyone. But they may not know right away. I mean, that's a big part of why I do what I do, is to help people get in touch with that.
Yeah, Tyler just said Jamie, you're very good at verbalizing exactly what you mean. It is very easy to understand what you mean. I think I mean they need to work on that.
Well,
Totally.
I think I understood what you meant, Tyler, but let me know if I didn't. I thought you verbalized it fine.
Yeah, like for me, like ever since I've had this realization as well, like, and I don't know if you read my Facebook post, like I was just like, I want to share it and like I want to tell people, but I don't know how because like I feel like it's like with the arrow that you just have to see it, you know, and like the thing is like I've been a person that like I don't know, as long as I can remember, I've been on this path of always wanting to do what I want, you know, like when I was a kid I'd always be like you know, I'm like, I'm going to win a Nobel Prize for literature. I'm going to do this. I'm going to write this book. And I had all these big ideas and I was always pointing towards everything that I wanted. And I believed in myself that I could do it, you know, and I studied sociology and I did all these things, you know, and was on that path to, you know, being a writer. Um, but the thing is, like, I knew it in theory, but I never, like, felt it. I never did anything. Like, I had all these thoughts in my head and all these plans and everything, and it really wasn't, like, until last year when I met Morton when I just suddenly saw the freaking arrow where I was like, oh, like, I should just do all those things then, and I can do all those things then, and there is actually no problem. Like, there's nothing stopping me. It's just, like, myself, you know, like, I could have already written like my first book when I was like 11 or something, you know, like, and like I didn't, not because of anyone, just because of me. And as soon as I started doing, just doing, like, and I've been doing everything that I am passionate about, like, and the thing is, like, there is no like measurement of success. Like, I am my own measurement, and it just makes me happy. Like everything that I do, like, I feel like I am just on this constant high, like all the time, of just happiness and gratefulness, you know, like it's just a simple thing, like it's just so simple, and that's why I'm happy like that, like you get to verbalize this for me because I don't know how to tell people, and you're just like so good at explaining it, you know.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, I
Well,
agree
the thing
with that.
is, this is my profession. My job is to try and help people see the arrow. That's it. So I'll sit there with a group of people. I mean, you're coming to the workshop, aren't you, in Oslo? So you'll experience this. We'll get there on the first day, and everyone will be kind of meeting each other and saying hi, and you walk in there and you're wondering what's this going to be like, and am I going to see it, and that sort of thing. And I'll just kind of like we've been doing on this call, I'll start telling stories, or maybe I'll do some coaching with someone at the front of the room or something like that. And then at some point, usually before the first break, a couple of people have gone kind of, oh, I get it. And they're like seeing the arrow. But here's the interesting thing, because the arrow we're talking about is a trick of the mind that's been played on us our whole life. And it's been one of those things that it's been visible, it's there, but we never saw it. At first, for some people, it's kind of like, what are they talking about? So I remember when people started going pop in the workshop I first did with Morton, there were people in the room going like, are they just putting it on? Is that for real? But I know you probably told people about the differences you've seen in your own life and that Morton's seen. It's incredible. You see it, and then the next person sees it, the next person. By the time we get to the morning of the second day, you walk into the room, and it's like you're looking at a different group of people. People's faces are different. The way it feels to be around people is different. And here's the interesting thing, Ginny. You know how a lot of workshops, you go on them, and it's great and it's a total buzz, but a week later it's kind of gone? Well, this is the opposite, and I'll explain why. What we're talking about is principles that are already true about life. Now, when you learn about something that's already true about life, it puts you on a constant learning curve. So I'll give you an example. When you were born, you didn't know anything about the principle of gravity. So the principle of gravity was a fact of life. You were born into it, but you didn't know about it. And so you spent the first few years of life on a learning curve about the principle of gravity and the implications of gravity, about that fact of life. And you've embodied those learnings, and you've embodied them so well that you use them 1,000 times a week without even thinking about it. You've used your embodied understanding of gravity 100 times today, and you haven't even thought about it until now. Every time you've walked up a flight of stairs or taken a footstep or sat down or stood up or picked up a cup or picked up a bear, you've been using your embodied understanding of the principle of gravity, something a baby can't do. You've been doing that hundreds of times a day without even thinking about it, and that's the key. So that's gravity. Now, I have a client who is in Singapore, and we're talking about germs, because germs, they're a pre-existing fact of life as well. We were born into a world of germs, but until a couple of hundred years ago, no one knew about them. And so the reason we know about them, and we know about the 5-second rule, and we know to wash our hands before dinner and that sort of thing, is because someone made germs visible to us. And so this client of mine in Singapore, she said, oh, that happened to my daughter. Daughter's 4 years old. She goes to school one day. And you know that glitter that little girls love to play with? Well, the teacher goes, okay, we're gonna study germs today. So we're gonna put glitter on 2 of the kids, and then at the end of the day, we'll all see where the glitter is. So there's class, 30 kids, 4 years old, 2 of them with glitter on them, first thing in the morning. Guess where the glitter was by the end of the day? Everywhere, all over the classroom, all over every kid. The teacher goes, that's what germs are like. They get everywhere, but you can't see them. So she gave, that genius teacher, brilliant, brilliant woman, gave those kids eyes for something that's true about life, but that's invisible. And she put them on a learning curve. So they understand germs better now than they did that day. And they'll understand germs even better 5 or 10 years from now than they do today. Because once you get eyes for a fact of life that's already there, you see it everywhere, just like you're going to see that FedEx arrow everywhere. Well, that's my job, Virginia, is to make something that's already true about life, that's already true for all of us, to make it visible to you. Because as soon as you start glimpsing it, you're going to go on a learning curve, and then you're going to start seeing the arrow everywhere. And that's why this is, like, you can ask Morton. Without him even confirming it for me, I guarantee his understanding is deeper now and stronger now and making a bigger difference in his life than it was 2 years ago when he first had that insight. So it's the opposite of stuff that wears off. It gets stronger and stronger and stronger because you're learning about something that's a fact that you're going to see showing up more and more and more and more in your life. So it's an amazing, amazing thing to be able to share with people.
Yeah, I mean, I can just like, like say it for myself, especially because it's like such a like, what's the word in English? Like acclimatization, because like as soon as you start seeing, and then you start seeing more, and then you start kind of playing with it more because like you go further. First, you're just kind of like testing the waters. You're like dipping your toes, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna try this. And then, you just keep on going with it, and then until you realize that there's like literally anything you can do.
Yeah.
Like it's like left, right, up, down, like anything. So yeah, it's grown over time. Like, and that's why like I'm so excited that I actually get to, experience it live, with you guys in August, because like it's just, and the thing is like me and Morton saw this at the Lifestyle Design Convention, like that was also one of those moments, and ever since then, like it's just grown and grown and grown. And the people that you meet, because people like us are hard to find, and sometimes you just feel a little bit alone with it, because you kind of feel a little bit crazy. Like it's like you're the only one that can see like a certain color, and you're just like, but don't you see it right there? Like it's like, freaky rainbow purple, like it's there, like you're like pointing at it, and everyone's like, what do you mean?
Yeah. It's so cool. It's so cool. And it's funny, I've just run a workshop in London this weekend and it's so cool because by the second day, everyone's so connected to each other,
Mm.
and so there's just this sense of being around people who can see that color as well. It's
Like
very
you never want to lose them again.
yeah, it's very, very powerful, and I mean, the focus on this weekend just gone was around working with coaches and therapists and people building their practices. But the one in Oslo is very much about how to live your dream lifestyle. And see, the thing is, like, the mistake I had made when I first started out was if I could get the dream lifestyle on the outside, then I would have the dream lifestyle on the inside. But it didn't work. So the whole idea is you start getting the dream lifestyle going on the inside, and then life on the outside starts to transform. And so we're pointing in that direction. And that's, whether you want to create, a star-spangled career, or you want to start your own business, or you want to do the kind of location-independent thing, or you don't know what you want to do, but you want to find out. That's what the focus of the weekend in Oslo is going to be. Let me check my diary.
I don't think I've actually sent. I don't think I've actually sent people the link for it. I'll put it in the chatty waddy, and here on my desktop.
It's the 22nd and 23rd of August, and we're going to get to meet in person, which I'm really looking forward to.
Yay! And I actually have a job interview tomorrow, which is really cool.
Right on.
Yeah, so like I basically like in the last kind of like 2 years, nearly every year I've doubled my salary, like within companies. And like the thing is, like the cool thing about it is like I don't have to do anything, because like this job that I'm interviewing for tomorrow, which is like a huge increase, it's super awesome, it's like a lot with what I want to do, I'm going to be learning loads. Like I didn't even apply, like they called me. Like when you are like that, like you said, like you were so grounded in that, like who you are, and you're doing what you want, like everyone is gonna know about it, and they're gonna see it. And yeah, so I'm excited. So wish me luck for that.
Good luck.
Okay, cool. Is there anything? Because I think we're 4 minutes over. I think. What is 20? Wait a second.
Hey guys.
Martini.
I just wanted to say I had a blast listening to you guys. That was amazing. I fell out for a bit and I came back, but I put in the control panel. So there should be like a link to the website in the chat box, or you click the offer or something, and then people can go check out the website.
Yeah, you can say the URL, can't you?
It's
Morton.
yeah.
/Jamie Smart.
Yeah. All right. That was amazing.
I have like goosebumps, and like so does Winnie. Look at him.
I'm just. Thanks, Ginny. Fantastic.
Okay, I love you guys.
Bye.